Episode 105, the most important thing in marketing isn't strategy, it's belief. Marketing rarely fails because of bad ideas. It usually fails because people quit before the work has time to compound. In this episode, we step away from tactics, trends, tools, that kind of thing, to talk about the part of marketing no one prepares you for: the waiting. The silence, the stretch where you are showing up, doing the work, and wondering if any of it is actually working. This conversation is about belief. Belief in your product, your message, and yourself long before the results show up. We unpack why consistency matters more than creativity, why confidence transfers before strategy does, and why most marketing wins happen quietly before they become visible. If you have ever felt like you are behind, stuck, or questioning whether your marketing efforts are worth it, this episode is a reminder that progress often happens long before proof does. Marketing works in silence first. And if you stay in the game long enough, the right people always notice. I'm Jim Deedlow. He's Matt Hansen. Hi.
How are you?
This is so timely.
Were you loving that?
You know this. We are working on some things, and I feel sometimes like we're working in silence. And we've rebranded. We have put together data. We've put together marketing material. We're redoing a website, and it hasn't translated yet. Right?
Yeah. Sorry. I'm exhaling so much.
Did you just laugh into the microphone like an amateur?
I did. 105 episodes. I'm still making those mistakes.
What kind of? Nobody does that that's been here 105 episodes. And you've been on here for a zillion other things, too.
Well,
You're laughing. He's clinking his cup. But today we don't have the clinks of the cups. So.
And that intro was kind of like a variable speed. It started out slow. I was waiting for it to eventually get there, and then you sped up.
It was like a switch, and I was like, there we go. That's the professional
there
right there.
we go.
Well, I'm reading it, and I realize that this is where we're at. We just had our marketing meeting on the sports network. And, I always just want to work on my own stuff. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
And now I'm like part of your marketing team kind of, and you've kind of coalesced everything. And I kept coming back to you. I'm like, all right, well, what do I do? What do I do? And I was a trader. I worked on my own. And then I had a team, and then I just had somebody else run the team. And then I do my own shows here. And other than listening to Adriana, our producer right now, I don't listen to anybody. I just want to do.
Yeah.
And here we are trying to build marketing, and you've got this long-term strategy. And I'm just like, I just want to go tackle someone on a football field. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
And I got to believe that there are a lot of people that own businesses or work in marketing departments that feel exactly the same way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people want instant results, that instant gratification of where we're at currently with technology and how you can find anything. You go to your internet and type up any question that you have, and you get instantaneous results, right? So you're struggling, like a lot of people are. You want to just put something out there and see results right away. And that's kind of what we're talking about today, is that marketing isn't always just put it out there and tomorrow the cash register is ringing or you're seeing these instantaneous results. And, I mentioned, we were talking as we were coming on the air, is the Misogi Challenge. Have you ever heard of this? Do you know what this is all about? So I heard about it last year, which is why we, you asked me about the podcast and doing a podcast, and I kept saying no. And it was always kind of like, I don't know if I want to do it. And then last year I said, okay, that's it. That is my challenge. That's my Misogi Challenge. It's basically you define your year by something that's really huge that you're going to go do, right? So January 1st is, by the time this comes out on the podcast, had already passed, and people have their things that they want to go out there and do, whether it's fitness or saving money or whatever it is, right? We all start out of the gate, and we're all in, we're doing it, and we overdo it many times, right? But the Misogi Challenge is basically you pick one thing to define your year, right? So what is it that you're going to do this year that you will look back and go, that was 2026 when I did that? So the way I look back at it is the podcast we started in 2025. I think it was January 13th or something like that. I will define 2025 as the year that we started the podcast. 2026, I've got my own things that I'm working on right now. But, it takes time to build something. It takes time to build a habit, which is why most of us fail at, I'm going to lose 30 pounds this year. And 3 weeks down the line, you haven't built a habit. You're tired of going to the gym and being
gained 4.
Yeah, you actually gain more than you actually lose, right? So, most people look at marketing in the same context, right? Like they start out, they're like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start posting. I'm going to do all this stuff. And I'm going to, put all this money out there. And then they stop. Like, it's not working. And what really is happening is you haven't given it enough time, right? Consistency, habit. When I leave the podcast, right? When I leave here, I will check my phone and there'll be 2 or 3 people that have texted me or called me or emailed me saying, hey, that was a great episode. And was that happening 6 months ago? No. Is it happening now? Yeah. Pretty much every single time I leave studio, somebody is reaching out to me saying, that was a really good podcast, right? I had no idea that was going to happen, right? If I would have stopped, right, when you first started talking to me about this, it was, let's do 20. If we would have done 20, we would have saw 0 results. Nobody would have, you wouldn't see the numbers. You'd probably see 5 downloads. Nothing would have really happened at that point. But where we're at now versus where we were 1 year ago are night and day, and where we'll be in another year. And it's just because we've created habit, right? This is a habit. You're supposed to be going to a party, and I said, no, get your butt back in the seat, and we're gonna do this, right?
Not only that, it should be the producer and I are due at a party, and you were adamant.
Yeah.
We're doing this.
We're doing it. Let's get in there, right? So normally we do 2, but we're doing 1 today. Okay, fine. I'll give you that. I'll do the other one by myself if I have to because you're so inconvenienced. But no, I'm just kidding. But that's what I mean, like developing habits. From a marketing perspective, if you develop those habits, go long term, right? So you're not going to see the results. If you're trying to generate awareness, you're not going to see drastic results right at first. You're going to see them over time, right? So nothing happens overnight. Like you're not going to lose 30 pounds in one day. Let's be honest. You may lose 1.5 pounds a week if you're really strict, right? So 30 pounds is going to take you a while to get there. I mean, that's going to take you months to see the results. And you have to measure it. You have to look at it every single week to see. Like you can't go in today and say, I've started my weight loss journey today and I'm going to lose 30 pounds. I'm going to get on the scale, and tomorrow I'm going to get on the scale, and the next day I'm going to get on the scale. You're not going to see a whole lot of movement there. What we have to realize is everybody, and I'm saying like 95% of the people that I deal with give up way too early. And I'm guilty of this as well in things that I've done in the past. I'm like, I just don't want to put the effort into it. I don't see the results. But if I would have kept going for 3 years doing something, you'd see the results. And this podcast was one of those things where I said, I am not giving up on it. We are going to keep going. And we're seeing the results of what's happening. We're seeing people reach out. So I guess what I wanted to talk about today is literally just don't think just because you don't see a drastic uptick in 1 week of your business that marketing isn't working. There's a variety of things that are happening behind the scenes that'll take time to kind of come to the surface.
All right, so let's go straight at what you mean by confidence transfers before tactics do.
Right. So let's take you, for example. We're talking about the sports network that you're promoting, and you were having these conversations a year ago about Jed TV, which is now Heartland, right? And you're in there and you're talking with individuals, and you have your customer base that you're talking to, and whether it's the high schools or it's the advertisers, and you're having these discussions with the advertisers back then are completely different from what you're having today, right? So just an hour ago, the conversations that you were having in that meeting, you would not have had a year ago. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. And why is that?
Well, I'll give you one specific example, and this is for anybody who does marketing and is in a similar situation, in that we go back to the funnel, and you talk about making awareness, you get people down into your consideration stage and then down to your close side. So I had a situation where I got somebody I've dealt with for a long time, and they did a little buy, and they weren't, they're telling me, well, we can't really do it because we don't have the data that backs it up. And I was kind of miffed about that, and I'm like, well, we do a lot for you guys, and there's a huge value in this, and I know that. And he's trying to let me know that if you just basically showed the numbers better and told the story better with numbers, you probably get a decent buy out of this. And so what Professor Hansen said to me as I was relating the story and was kind of pissed about it, he said, oh, well, that means you've gone from awareness to consideration. And I'm like, well, you're right. They're considering it now. And that's why they want the numbers. They wouldn't have done that last year at this time. No. They wouldn't have considered sponsoring the network because they have a boss, and that boss, they have to show all of this stuff. But now we're getting closer on that consideration stage. That was a confidence thing that I wouldn't have been able to get to a year ago. I wouldn't have even been able to talk in their language of, well, gosh, we have really good numbers. Then we did, but we couldn't measure them. Now we have good numbers and we can measure them. So the confidence is building.
So if you weren't marketing, if you weren't putting this stuff out to these individual companies, you wouldn't have uncovered that now you have two different sets of customers, right? You've got kind of the traditional customer that you've gone after, but now you've got another tier of a customer that has different needs and wants. And that those different needs and wants are different things that you have not done in the past. So you've learned something. You've done the market research there. You've learned something, and now you're evolving your business based on that, right? So they asked for X, Y, and Z. You're putting X, Y, and Z together, and you're realizing that X, Y, and Z is something that tier of customer is, every single one of them is going to want to look at that. And they're an extremely valuable customer, right? They've got deep pockets when it comes to marketing budgets versus somebody that only has, let's say, $50 a month to spend. But you're learning, those are conversations that you weren't having a year ago. And it's just because you're taking the next step and the next step and the next step, and you're getting out of your comfort zone, and you're putting things out there, and you're having conversations, and you're learning, which is now leading to new opportunities. And now think about it in terms of this, that once you get that fixed to have that conversation with that customer, how much easier is it to go and talk to 9 other customers at that same level? I know what you're looking for. Here's what we've been able to pull for you. And that conversation that you're having with them right then isn't, what do you need? I have to go back and find it. Here, we've got it ready for you to go.
So another tenet of belief in the marketing system is that personally I think builds that confidence is consistency. Mm-hmm. We literally just had that meeting, and I'm like, all right, we're building this team. That's great. But I have to wake up in the morning, and I got to know what my routine is. And I've been able to do that and sell, a bunch of stuff here. But now we're going at a different level. And I came to you and I said, listen, I want that consistency that I have not. It's always been a spotty thing. on marketing and based on handshakes and that kind of stuff. But we're going into a different, more scientific approach to it. So what do you say to a person like me to get to that consistency?
I think you have to understand what you're comfortable with, right? So you have a certain way that you want to go about doing things, right? You have to have a system, right? Alone, right? By myself,
Yeah.
but a system, right? So you have to have.
I have to have a system.
I've got to do step number 1, and I've got to do step number 2 and 3, and so forth. So we need to find what that system is for you, but it also has to work within the group. That, obviously the team, it has to work within the clients, the potential clients, and all those types of things. So, there is a system for everybody. I think people ask me all the time, how do you do all of these different things? And it's a series of systems that I've developed, and I just follow, right? Like it's rinse and repeat. So as we were talking in the meeting earlier, I'm understanding your system. You need something that you have to do every single week. We kind of outlined, okay, well, if that's how you need to function, let's focus in a certain way that allows you to do that, right? And I don't want to go into too many details on the podcast about clients and things like that, but it really comes down to, if you have a system that you can use on one client and it works, can I use it again on the next client and the next client and the next one, right? Potential customer. Because they can all be evolved, right? So when I say works on one, works on the other, it doesn't mean that you're selling the exact same way. It means that maybe step 1 of your system is just reaching out and having a casual conversation. Maybe number 2 is asking them about their last purchase, right? Those are open-ended questions that are going to lead you down a path to customization of what you're going to sell to them, right? What you're going to give to them. But it's still a process, right? So, again, you've got, let's say there are 50 people that you want to go out there and talk to. Those 50 individuals all have unique needs, but you can still follow a process of, I'm going to reach out to them, I'm going to have this conversation, I'm going to ask these kinds of questions, build that system that way. So it doesn't have to be like, I'm going to ask this exact question, which if it's yes or no, I will then ask follow-up question A, or it doesn't have to be like that, right? Like we're smart enough to figure out.
The Office Depot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. But you're just saying that when I wake up in the morning, I want to know, all right, I've got to do X, Y, Z, and I'm going to go do that. And it doesn't have to be so like read it word for word. And I know we joke about it on this podcast that I give kind of like an outline, and sometimes we go completely on the outline, or some days Jim throws it over his shoulder and says, we're going somewhere else, right? And that's perfectly fine, but that's what we do in marketing. We have a plan, we go in, and sometimes it goes in a variety of different directions. So from a system setting, figure out what you're comfortable with. You need a place to start, a place to end, and a couple things in the middle, and you're perfectly fine.
And I think that is what, to extrapolate this system that I know what I have to do. It has to be a routine for me. And I have not made marketing a routine because, like many of you, I run my business still. And I have to make content, and I have to do HR, and I have to go through the accounting, and I got to deposit checks. All of that seems like it has to be done before you get to the marketing. And I think to boil it down is perhaps the marketing should be either near the top of that pyramid or should be one of those routines, is how I'm getting this.
Yeah, I mean, if marketing is not your priority, then you got to realize that you're going to get what you get, right? So if you're not out there doing any marketing, you know what your revenue numbers are. You know that you're probably going to stay consistent with where you're at. You're not going to see growth because you're not reaching out to anybody new, right? So if you have a store, you have a service, business, whatever it is, if the phone isn't ringing anymore, if there's not more customers coming in, and you do absolutely zero marketing, odds are they're not going to find you. You're going to see the same amount of people every single year, which means you have to get out there and meet those people. So if you have these goals, right? If you have this, this Musogi challenge that I want to hit $1 million in revenue next year or something like that, right? You have to change what you're doing. You can't do the same thing. Like if I want to lose 30 pounds this year, I can't continue to eat a bag of chips every day or whatever. I'm just giving examples, but like you probably should decrease the caloric intake that you have and maybe walk a little bit or go to the gym or whatever it may be. But you can't continue to do the same things and expect different results. That's insanity right there. I mean, it's the definition of it.
So to circle around on this, I don't know what we've concentrated on me as a business owner or business person, like many of you. The reason we've brought that up is that I get impatient and I don't have a system. I'm somewhat new to marketing. I was a trader and ran a business, but I've sold a lot over the years without any system. And I think that you probably have too. If you're have your own business and small to medium-sized business, you never really thought of yourself as a marketer and someone who sells, but you're already there. Mm-hmm. You just got to tighten it together, and you have to. Here's the final part of the paper put in front of you. It's about showing up long enough for the right people to notice.
Yeah. I mean, let that sit in, right? So if you are, and I'm telling you, I see this all the time. Let's go spend some money. Put an ad out there. Let's run it for 30 days. Let's see what happens. And then what do I hear? Didn't work. What do you mean it didn't work? Well, we didn't get any more business. What are we trying to do? What was our goal here? Well, we were trying to get more people in. I said, well, they don't even know who you are. You got to generate awareness first and get them through, to work through. Well, it's a waste of money. Do more people know about you? Well, no. Are you sure? Because according to the ad that we ran, you had this many clicks, you had this many comments, people know who you are because they're interacting with your ad. Well, and you just get this fighting, right? And what I say to them is, that's fine. If you're looking to sell $100,000 off a $5 a day ad, good for you. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen, right? Just not going to happen. Let's be honest. So if you are constantly out there reminding people that you're here, you become part of the public. You become part of the environment that people live in, and they will think of you when that need arises, right? So, besides boots, what's the last thing you've bought?
Jeez, that's a sweatshirt.
Okay, so a sweatshirt. How did you find the sweatshirt?
I had extra time and I went into a local sporting goods store.
Okay.
But I had seen the sign before, or I had seen something about them, and I was in Portage, and I'm like, I'll go in here, and I bought a sweatshirt.
Right. So
there was a little awareness from their advertising.
So you didn't see an ad that day. You saw an ad maybe a year ago. You saw a sign a year ago.
Yeah.
You had some interaction with something.
And I'm like, where is that place? Oh, here it is. I bought a sweatshirt. Okay.
So what we're saying is if you just did that for 30 days and then said marketing doesn't work, what do you think? Yeah, it doesn't work at that point because you've just given up. So spread it out over the long term, generate the awareness, and realize that not everything is an e-commerce, sell a product right then and there, right? Like unless you're selling insurance and somebody just got canceled, right, for their car insurance, they're not actively looking for most products. So, realize that and spread it out and realize you've got to be marketing all the time. You can't just put it down for 30 days.
You've got to be marketing all the time. Patience, consistency, communication. But mostly you just need to listen to this podcast. This is 105 under the belt. Congratulations. That's a big number in 1 year.
Yeah,
It's more than two a week.
Yeah. It's been fun.
He's
the last one in the studio here, so we're moving studios.
Yeah, he's got to get a new Musogi challenge. We're moving studios, but the biggest person to thank is Adriana Alvarez. She has been here with us from the beginning and has basically pushed us along, and it happens to be her 22nd birthday tomorrow.
Oh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Hey, guys, until next time, we'll see you later.